tastes like wine. Okay, so here's the thing. Basically, I watched a lot of the same movies when I was a kid because I didn't have any streaming service. You know, I didn't have an unlimited number of movies to choose from. I didn't even have internet for the first few years of my life, so I didn't know anything about online piracy. Basically, all I had were a couple of DVDs that I just rewatched every single day, and that was my only source of entertainment because I was an only child and an introvert. Which was such a winning combination that my parents signed me up for kindergarten as early as they could so I could develop some social skills. Didn't really work out as well. I mean, honestly, like, can you really blame them? No, you can't, because like in theory the idea does sound good, but I was the problem. It's not them, it's me. As I said, my only source of entertainment were those DVDs, and naturally I developed a lot of crushes on all of those people in those movies because I was just so used to seeing their faces every single day. So today I decided to make a little presentation of as many as I could remember, and we're gonna go over it together. Also, there may be a few unknown people on here because like those were some random ass DVDs, okay? Like you would get maybe one popular movie per DVD and then like 5 whatever movies. So if you don't know some of these characters, that's why. There's a nice little mix of everything. Also, these are fictional characters. I don't know if I said that. Should I add a disclaimer? Like these are not real life crushes. Like I'm not gonna, oh my god, imagine if I just started like dropping names of kids I liked in elementary school. That would literally not be fun at all. Like you don't even know who those people are. I don't even know who those people are. I can't remember any. I just remember one. Moving on. Also, one more thing before we get started. This video concept is heavily inspired / stolen from Nicole Raffi and her most recent video, Men I Would Cheat on My Boyfriend With. Except I wouldn't cheat on my boyfriend with any of these men because A, I don't have one, and B, my taste has changed over the years. Thankfully. So, and see, some of these are like 2D characters. So, like, lines. Okay, so I know for a fact that my first crush ever was Miguel Arango from Rebelde. Now, if you grew up somewhere where the TV show Rebelde was popular, then you understand his crush. Like, this was intense. Like, you were either Team Miguel or Team Diego. There was no in between. It was basically like Team Edward and Team Jacob. But speaking of Twilight, I actually wasn't part of either team. I was just above it. I thought I was too good for that. My god complex was always working, and it's even started working overtime over the years. But, I am in love with Robert Pattinson currently, though, but that's a different story. Now we have pros and cons. So, pros. Has curly hair. Listen, I liked him with a buzz cut. But one season he appeared with this longer curly hair, and that is the moment I knew I made the right choice. I was like, you know what, Miguel? It's kind of a weird way to propose, but yes, I do. I am a 10-year-old though, so we might have to wait a few years, but it's still a yes. Next up, can sing. Just every time he would sing, my heart would melt, you know? Also, you know what I did? I would like take my phone, I had a flip phone. Every time he was on the screen, I would take my phone and take photos of the TV screen and then make that photo my lock screen. So that was a little cute obsessive behavior I was displaying. Next, lastly, he has basic human decency. That's right, ladies, we may have just started, but the bar is already on the floor. He has a younger sister, which just makes me believe that he has some common sense about like treating women and stuff like that, but honestly, like in today's climate, like you never know, so I wouldn't bet on it. I do know for a fact that he's a good friend, which he showed numerous times in the show. Like for example, the time when he joined a cult to save his friend. I think at least, it's been like 13 years since I've seen the show, but like the cult did want to kill him for a while. Cons. Cons. Joined a cult too easily. Has anger issues. He did try to push Mia off a cliff once, and basically his entire arc in season 1 is him wanting to revenge his father's death in any way possible. Murder of the responsible people, not desire, but honestly sometimes even preferable. Like there were a couple of scenes where you're just like, will he? Won't he? He wouldn't. And like you'd be right, he wouldn't, because it's a kid show after all, but like even the slightest ounce of doubt in that would he question is enough to just run. And lastly, he lacks the emotional attachment, and my Venus is in Leo, meaning I need someone to be obsessed with me. I think at least I read my natal chart one singular time, and that's just what I concluded on my own, but like it made sense to me. He didn't appear at the Rebelde reunion, which just means he moves on very quickly, which was a letdown. But honestly, I didn't watch that either, so look who's talking. Oh my god, we have so much in common. Then moving on to Dimitri from Anastasia. I talked about this man in depth in my Anastasia commentary. I love everything about him, like starting from his gestures to his Leonardo DiCaprio Titanic-esque hair, all the way to his zigzag nose. The true white boy of the month, not a single flaw to this man. Green flags. Loyal. This man was ready to defend the royal family with his life when he was a child. Imagine what he's ready to do as a grown man. Actually, we don't have to imagine, like we saw that he was like ready to take a bullet from Anastasia in the movie. He didn't have to though, because she was a girl boss, but still, it's the thought that counts. Would tell good stories. He's a con man, you know? He's a mammoth, you know? So I just know he's full of stories of how he took this and took that and fucked over this person, tricked over this one. And I don't like to talk, which may come as a surprise to many of you. And he could just fill in the awkward silence with his stories. It's a really good first date idea, actually. My adventures as a fraud. The Fraud Chronicles of Narnia. Next up, he's good with money. Now, this one I kind of concluded on my own, but like, he's a professional con man. I'm sure things are working out for him. Even if they aren't, even if he's like in a crisis, he can definitely con his way out of one. He married a princess after all. Can you imagine the inheritance they got? And lastly, he has experience with enemies liver stroke, so we could go in that direction from the very beginning. It's preferable for me, and it wouldn't be new to him, so he could just play along immediately. Red flags. He's a con man. Listen, I can respect the hustle, but only when it's not directed at me and I'm not the object of the con. And that can happen. You never know. Like, let's be real here. We don't know what happened in the end. We don't know if they got there happily ever after all. Like, we only saw them kiss. He could have easily, while kissing her, grab her face with his left hand, take his right hand, slip it in her pocket, take her money, take her wallet out and just dip. Maybe take the dog too, because the motherfucker's cute, and just dip out of there. You never know. Also, when you Google con man synonyms, one word that comes out is a cheater, and that can be interpreted in many ways. Next, manipulative. He convinced a poor orphan that she was the long-lost Russian princess, and it took him like 7 minutes to do that. He was right in the end, but like, he didn't know that at the time. And lastly, for the cons, he has a perfect, funny, beautiful, intelligent, incredible royal girlfriend. Now, here comes one of the more intense crushes I had, and that was Nick from No Reservations. See, something that I realized while making this presentation is that my type used to be, actually I had two types. So one was just a very like conventionally attractive man, which I don't consider my type anymore because it's just boring. And the other type, which is my personal favorite, was Owen Wilson in different fonts for some reason. Just any guy that even slightly resembled Owen Wilson was instantly my new white whale that week. There's definitely some psychological reasoning behind that I would not like to learn about. But you know what I say, don't cry because it's over, smile because it happened, and celebrate because it's over. There was something about us, man. Like, he knew how to cook, had a great sense of humor, he was charismatic, you know, just like everything that I'm not, everything that I would like to be. Maybe I don't like him, maybe I just want to be him. He's also blonde with a horrible haircut, but like, I was ready to turn a blind eye to that. Like, there were too many green flags for me to care about his hair. Like, I also went through an abuse of my flat iron phase, so I could guide him through that. Green flags. Elite sense of humor, that's the only thing that matters to me, honestly. Can cook. The scene where he made the pasta, I don't know what that was, but it looked like the best meal on earth. It still does. I love to cook. So it would be great to have something in common. I could make a meal and then he could just come in and fix it. Lastly, he's good with children. In the movie, he's like tied with Catherine Zeta-Jones's niece because her mom died in a car crash and she has to take care of her. It's actually a sad movie. I don't know why I watched it constantly. I mean, I know why I watched it because there was cooking involved. Like, I treated this movie as Food Network because it was the only movie I had that had any amount of cooking in it. But there was actually like a minimum amount of cooking and like a maximum amount of heartache. But I would just be like, yeah, but have you seen the pasta though? Red flags. Might want children. He just seems like a family-oriented man, and I'm just not. And I don't want that. So there would definitely be a little bit of a conflict. And like, we would fight, but then like in the end he would realize he didn't want to lose me because no one can afford to lose me. And then he'd like make me a nice dinner and we'd make up, and then we wouldn't have children in the end. So I might get jealous of his cooking skills, but turn this might into a must. And lastly is just that he's just an ugly man. I'm so sorry. No, honestly, I genuinely don't think he's not good looking. Like, I do think he needs a haircut, but he's just way too charismatic in that movie for me to not consider him attractive. Now here comes my Shanghai Nights phase. A phase. Shanghai Nights phase. For some reason, this was my comfort movie in elementary school. I watched it religiously. I haven't seen it again since I was like 11, but this was my shit. I knew the movie by heart, and I had a couple of crushes actually from this one movie, starting with the man of the hour, Owen Wilson himself. Pros. Is Owen Wilson. Good sense of humor, I think. I put I think here because I haven't seen a movie in a long time, as I already said, so take everything that I say with a grain of salt. I also don't know anything about Owen Wilson in real life, so he may not be a funny person himself. Lastly, he's a con man, meaning he's smart And then for cons, my type has changed, but hashtag respect. Everything is self-explanatory, but that's not it. We have more. The bad guy. There was just something about this man. Just like the way he held himself, that just like infatuated me. I don't know what that was. I was low-key rooting for him as well. Honestly, like, I knew he wouldn't win. And I didn't want him to win, but like, if he won and killed all of them, I wouldn't have minded. And lastly, for my Shanghai Knight's face, Lynn. I could not mention Lynn. She was so independent, so intelligent, so pretty. Her hair, even when she's fighting the bad guys, her hair stays silky and untangled. But it was mostly the independence and how she like didn't wait to be rescued, but rescued herself. Girl boss. Now here's a fun fact about me. I used to play a lot of video games when I was younger. I actually still kept a little bit of that gamer personality today. I mean, I do play The Sims very frequently. That's my favorite type of procrastination. Back then it was mostly Barbie games, but still, one of the games that I played was Meet the Robinsons. I did watch the movie as well, but it was only when I started playing the game that I started liking Wilbur. But see, I liked Wilbur, but I thought I'm gonna be Lewis when I grew up because I saw him make up new inventions by just like drawing them out in his little notebook. Like literally, he would just sketch it out and then in the next scene he would have it in front of him. And I thought that's all it took to invent shit, was to just like draw it in a notebook. I think that was around the time I wanted to be an architect when I grew up. I always thought what an easy job that was. All you gotta do is just like draw stuff and you get paid for it. And then obviously I learned that you need like math and calculations for it, for those drawings, right? And that's when I saw, you know, it's actually funny, like I've never stopped wanting to do something as fast as that. Pros. Hashtag bad boy. He steals a time machine to go to the past without his parents knowing, to see one of his parents, but still without his parents knowing, and just like generally does more of what he wants and not what he's told to do, which obviously has its pros and cons, but here I'm gonna treat it as a green flag. Next, has a good sense of humor. You know what, I'm starting to sense a little pattern in here. I think I may like people with a good sense of humor. What do you think? Lastly, he's from the future, which to me sounds very promising because I'm hoping that maybe guys from this era have finally learned about like a few silly little concepts like consent and like similar things like that. Now, if I made this presentation back in the day when I was experiencing this crush, Wilbur would have no cons, but right now he does have one, and that is that he is a child. Then we have Linguini from Ratatouille. This one is very self-explanatory, you know? I also really like the guy. I also like the cook from Ratatouille that allegedly killed a man with his thumb.
I killed a man with this thumb.
Because because of that reason, first of all, legends only, but also because he reminded me of Nick from No Reservations, which if you like dig a bit deeper into that, it just meant another Owen Wilson homage. Anyways, green flags to Linguini. Likes to cook, but bad, because same. Doesn't kill animals, but traps them in a jar and then releases them back into the nature, which is the only acceptable way of dealing with unwanted living beings. Let's underline the living beings noun phrase in that sentence because that's something that people like to forget about, especially when it comes to insects. The only creature I am guilty of killing is a spider because I can't help it. I'm so completely and passionately afraid of them. Like even the thought of one just brings me discomfort. I also can't even trap them in a jar because I once saw a post on Tumblr a few years back. Also Tumblr. Remember that? That was fun. It was basically a story of how a person trapped a spider under a bowl and then the spider laid eggs under said bowl before they were able to set the spider free, and then they were basically just left with a bunch of little spiders and didn't know how to lift up the bowl and solve the problem basically. I don't know how that story ended, but to be quite honest, like now that I'm saying it out loud, it does sound like a fake story, and it was Tumblr. After all, like people were ready to do anything for a few reblogs, myself included, you know, but like instead of making up a fake story that will like haunt people for years after reading it, I just like took a picture of my nails and hope for the best. But you know, everyone's different, I guess. There's a few things Tumblr has taught me and given me: good fashion choices, depression, and a hardcore fear of spiders. I'm so emotionally attached to this man because again, he is me. Like he kind of likes to cook, doesn't really know what he's doing, very socially awkward, only knows how to communicate with animals, like is maybe set for some good things in life but needs to be guided to them by someone else in order to get them and achieve them because he's just so helpless on his own. And then cons, We would be two introverts with no friends and would get sick of each other's presence very quickly, and it would be uncomfortable. Next up we have Sky from Mamma Mia, but only in the Lay All Your Love on Me scene. So, judging by that scene, Sky can sing, looks good, looks like he has a great group of friends around him. Wonder what that's like. Cons. That's all I know about him because for the rest of the movie I was too busy looking at all three dots. Then we have one that like physically hurts me to even think about, but I just need to get this on my chest. I feel like it's gonna be therapeutic for me. So like this one low-key disgusts me. I don't know why. What is this? Like this is one of the childhood crushes that like makes you question your mental state. Anyways, let's just get this over quickly because I can't look at him anymore. So pros, none. Cons, he has a soul patch and overall ew. Another one of his cons is just every single trait that he has because he has commitment issues. He is a serial cheater. His aspiration is to be a heartbreaker. So I'm guessing he's a Marine and a Diamonds fan. Maybe he has one pro after all. Benjamin Button, but in his middle age. Pros. Hot. Still has most of his life ahead of him because he ages backwards, right? So he's like technically in his 20s here, I think, or 30s. So like, I'm an English major, I don't do math. 20s or 30s. Cons. Mentally a child. Like he's a man-child when you think about it. Like actually like a little man-child. Like he was born as a physical man-child. And lastly, he is in love with a girl already. Too in love, if you ask me, but nobody asks me anything. Rami Malek Akman Ra. A night at the museum. So for my pros, I just wrote down yes, because everything is good about this man, which leads me to my cons. Everything is good about this man. I would break him. I just know I could manipulate this man so easily. That just makes me feel sad and bad for him. He doesn't deserve it. I don't deserve him. He's too good for me. Then we have Flynn Rider, everyone's favorite Disney prince. Super hot, charming, kind of dick. The perfect combination. Like he's like the one sane person in the entire world, but like still simultaneously not entirely normal. Cons. Ryan Reynolds energy. You know, like every straight man has a crush on him as well. Too much even. It kind of ruins the experience. And second of all, he's not a big fan of big noses, and I am like a member of like a decent sized nose community, and I am offended. Then we have the smart guy from Bro Trip and the smart guy from Accepted. Now these two fall under the same category because they basically play the same exact character. This was hotter, sorry. So growing up on those DVDs I've been mentioning so much, I always had at least one American Pie-esque comedy on there. I was approximately 8 years old watching that, but it surprisingly didn't leave any mark on me except like the fact that I developed a taste in movies from an early age and am now able to identify a shitty, raunchy, sexist American comedy that uses prepubescent boy humor and objectifies women purely from the font the movie chooses for its cover. So with that being said, these are two of those movies. Honestly, compared to other movies of the genre, like these are fine. This one's literally okay. This one I don't remember quite a lot, and I think it's by choice. I think I blocked out a lot of this movie from my memory, and I don't want to watch it again to freshen up my memory. But this one I watched again a few years ago, and it was like okay. You know, like it wasn't anything special. It was like accepted in my... It was like in my list of like watchable movies. Anyways, these two, they both basically play the same character, like the smart friend in the group that's fully aware of the fact that he's the smart guy, and he like thrives on that because he gets hard on mocking and making fun of his friend's stupidity, even though he's equally as stupid as them, because a true smart person would not have a superiority complex of that size. That is actually both a red flag and a green flag. It's a red flag in practice, but like when watching a movie, it's a nice character to have, I gotta be honest. Anyways, that's it. I don't know, I just wanted to talk about them for a little bit because this one, I was in love with this man. I mean, him too, but like, this one is actually, like, this one was literally okay. I don't know why he's on here. No, this one was a fucking asshole, but he looked so hot doing it. Then we have Roddy from Flushed Away. I wrote down Pete Davidson on here. I don't, it's really hard to explain. I just feel a Pete Davidson vibe. It's not that I think he looks like Pete Davidson or acts like Pete Davidson or has like the sense of humor like Pete Davidson. It's just like when it comes to the world's attitude towards him, it's kind of similar to the world's attitude when it comes to Pete Davidson. Basically the same as I said Ryan Reynolds energy for Flynn Rider. It's the same thing. Like I can't explain it, I just feel it. Cons. He is a rat, and I'm kind of scared of rats because I once saw a dead rat as a child and I petted him and a woman laughed in my face. And he's also a spoiled rat. He's an only child or an only pet, and the family spoiled him, which is how you should treat a pet. But like in the context that we're talking about today, this is a red flag. Next up, Ezra Fitz. Yikes. Pros. I be living a PLL moment. Ezra and Arya were my shit back then. The teacher-student trope just sounded really romantic to me. With that being said, cons. I be living a PLL moment. Next up, we have honorable mentions. First off, Jesus Judas from Lady Gaga's hit music video, Judas. I think this right here is what triggered this like very long and complex line of events when it comes to my relationship with religion that ended in like atheism, basically. Well, I mean this and like pure trauma from like religion classes in my elementary school. Another crush that stressed me out was a priest from High Spirits. If you don't know about this movie, lucky you. This was a movie about a haunted hotel that actually wasn't haunted because the staff pretended it was for like clout, basically, but then in the end it ended up actually being haunted. Aesthetically, it was the worst thing I've ever seen. One of the guests was the priest who fucked a girl the first night of his stay, and I had a crush on him, and basically the fact that he like broke his vows made it easier for me to like admit I liked him, because like we were both rebels then. I now have a crush on the priest from Fleabag as well, just like everyone who's seen Fleabag, but I don't feel guilty about that one. Puss in Boots from Shrek. Self-explanatory. Diego from Ice Age. Self-explanatory. RJ from Over the Hedge. Self-explanatory. Debbie Thornberry. Self-explanatory. Violet Baudelaire from Lemony Snicket's series of unfortunate events. Not the TV show, the movie with Jim Carrey. Rose. Super fucking smart. Just a super smart, intelligent young woman. She invents so much stuff. I also had a video game of this, and every time I would play her, I would get so excited because I just wanted to be in her presence. I wanted to see what it was like to be a genius. Cares about her family so much that she was ready to marry her cousin, uncle, I don't know what he was. Perfect. And knows to cook pasta, and pasta's my favorite meal. She doesn't cook pasta out of enjoyment though, but because she like took on the motherly role for her brother and sister and cousin, uncle. What was he? And last but certainly not least, Rumpelstiltskin from Once Upon a Time. And I still kind of see it.